Should you train when you're sick? This is a question that every single lifter who's even a tad bit serious will eventually at least once ask themselves, even though the answer is pretty self-explanatory. It's very obvious. It is no. And even the normies know that. In fact, the normies know it. And the only reason why you, as a serious lifter, are questioning it is because we are all attached to our muscle, to our numbers in the gym, and all of that. So it's very understandable that we start thinking about, okay, what happens if I don't go to the gym? I mean, if I don't go, I'm going to lose out on gains. I'm going to maybe even lose muscle. And that's not really the case. So what today I'm going to do is not just tell you, oh, you shouldn't lift, duh. What I'm going to do instead is explain to you why you should not lift when you're sick, because that way you could actually understand it, and that way it would be much less painful to skip the gym and get some rest when you're sick, because I know what it feels like. To all of us serious lifters, it is a curse when you get sick, because, oh my god, what am I going to do now? Should I go to the gym? But I'm sick, so I probably shouldn't. But if I don't go to the gym, I'm going to lose gains and I'm going to lose muscle, and what will happen then, and blah, blah, blah. But first, let's talk about what is training. When you're training, what are you doing? Well, you have a baseline of strength, endurance. Basically, your body has a baseline that you're breaking down when you're training, and then your body uses resources to recover you to that baseline. And if you did things well, even above the baseline, and that's when you build muscle. Now, what is sickness? You have a baseline that has been disrupted by a sickness, and now your body has to use resources in order to get you back to that baseline. So it's essentially pretty much the same thing. And the reason why I'm starting with this is because this will be relevant a little bit later. Now, why is it better to not train when you're sick? Well, this is what muscle building looks like. This is how you build muscle. You need enough quality stimulus. That's one thing. And the second, you need adequate recovery. And this equals to rebuilding to baseline and above, which is building muscle. This is how you can rebuild to baseline and above. What we want is to rebuild to baseline and above. Rebuilding just to baseline is not enough. That is called maintaining your muscle, and that is obviously not what we want. I mean, that's better than losing it, but losing it, you really have to fuck up to lose some muscle, so that is not really relevant here. Now, let's look at these things. Number one, enough quality stimulus. So it needs to be enough. It can't be too little, and it needs to be good quality. So, for an example, if you're doing very intense sets, but you're only doing one very intense set, that's not enough. It's quality, but it's not enough. Or, second thing, if you're doing a bunch of sets, but it's not enough quality, it's not good enough quality, the sets are not intense, then it's fucked. You know, we see this all the time. When you do, I know that the scientists like to say that, oh, it's enough to go to RPE 7 and it's enough to keep 3 reps in the tank. No, it's fucking not. Try to train with 3 reps in reserve and then try to go to failure. Huge fucking change. It's like a miracle. So, obviously, if your volume, if your sets are not intense enough, it's not going to be enough stimulus for you to grow. And the second thing we will need is adequate recovery. Okay, so adequate recovery, I think it's pretty obvious. You need good sleep, you need good food, you need the food to actually go to muscle building. And what else? You need maybe low stress. If your stress is too high, doesn't really matter if all of the other things are good, your performance will suffer a little bit. But yeah, these are the 2 main things that you need. And if one of these things go, it's all gone. So if you don't get enough stimulus, or if you don't get good enough stimulus, it's not going to be good, okay? If your sets are not intense enough, you're not going to create enough stimulus to where your body will actually want to build to your already existing baseline of muscle mass. So I think that's also something that's, it's pretty obvious, but a lot of people don't think about it, and that's why this whole fucking science meme is so fucking prevalent nowadays, is they say, oh, it's enough to train to 3 RIR, but in reality, why does your body build muscle? Why does your body do anything? Anything that you do, your body does, it does to preserve humanity. So it does to either reproduce, to be able to reproduce, or to survive. These are the main things that you're trying to do with your life. Literally everything that you do is because of these things. And so is building muscle. Why do you build muscle? Your body isn't like, oh, this guy did a set of pull-ups and now we should just make the muscles bigger, because why not? No. What your body thinks is, hey, this guy almost died today. This guy needed to pull himself up, and maybe if he wouldn't have been able to do that, he was almost not able to do that. If this happens next time, if we don't get stronger, we might die. So you better get stronger so that next time when this shit comes around and this guy will need to pull himself up on a fucking cliff or something to survive, then we don't fail. And that's why your body gets stronger and builds muscle. And that's why if you can easily do fucking 3 pull-ups, and in reality you could do 10, but you only did 3, that's not going to do anything. You know why? Because your body's going to be like, whoa, that guy fucking flew up the cliff. So we really don't need to worry about anything. Now, when your body's like, oh my god, maybe if we would have to do 1 more rep, we would have fucking died on the cliff. Or, bro, even the best thing is, when you fail, your body's gonna be like, well, I don't know how, but we somehow survived, but we clearly failed, so we better get better, because next time, what if we don't survive? So that's how this thing works. So obviously, if the work is too easy, your body is not going to adapt, because there's nothing to adapt to. You can easily do the work. That's the whole point. What about the recovery? Well, the recovery thing is where it really comes all together. So if your recovery is shit, you will not grow. I think that's pretty obvious. Everybody knows that. You don't sleep enough, you're not going to grow. You don't eat enough, you're not going to grow. You have really high stress, not going to grow. I'm not trying to fearmonger here. This is just what happens. Now, when you're sick, both of these go. You know why? Because you're not really able to put in 100% effort at the gym. You're not able to train as intensely. You're not even able to do as much work because your work capacity goes down. You're sick. You're not able to perform as well. And so therefore, you cannot get the normal quality stimulus. That is just straight facts. Try to go to the gym when you're sick. You're not going to be able to do the same work as when you normally do. Even if you write the same thing in your logbook and you're able to somehow do that, chances are you either had shittier form or something happened, but the quality, if you're actually legitimately sick, and it's not just like a runny nose, it's an actual sickness that you should rest for, the chances are you're not going to be able to train well. So one of these things already went out the fucking window, so now you're already not growing because you only need one of the things to not be correct. And you're already not gaining muscle, you're just maintaining. But not only this goes out, also recovery goes out the window. You know why? Because of what I said in the beginning. You need resources to rebuild back to baseline and above. And you need resources when it comes to sickness. So both training, you disrupt your baseline and you need to build back to baseline and above, and sickness, some fucking bacteria or virus or whatever disrupted your... What was I trying to say? Disrupted your baseline, and you need to use resources to rebuild back to baseline. Now, the resources are the same. You need to sleep, you need to eat food, you need vitamins, and you need low stress and all that. So what happens is, if you went to history class, you know what happens when you try to fight a two-front war. it's not going to end up well. Nobody wants to fight two front wars. Nobody wants to fight wars, or at least I don't want to, but especially not two front wars. If you're a leader of a country, the last thing you want to do is... What the fuck? The last thing you want to do is to fight a war on two fronts. Because then you will have the same army. You will not get a bigger army automatically from the fucking universe because, the universe was like, oh, hey, I saw that you need to go to war on two fronts, so I will give you an extra army. No, that doesn't happen. You have the same amount of military people, but now you have to give them into two separate places to fight two separate battles, so you essentially need to halve your forces, and now you're fucked in both wars. What should you be doing instead? Well, let's say maybe not fight war on two fronts at the same time, maybe fight one war with full force and then another with full force as well. That's what works the best when it comes to wars and history, and this is the same thing. When you're sick and you're training at the same time, your body is fighting two wars at the same time. Your body is trying to recover the sickness with its resources, and it's also trying to recover the damage that you did during training to your muscles with the resources. But the resources didn't become more. You have the same amount of resources. You're not going to just magically start sleeping 16 hours and eating twice as much food when you train and you're sick at the same time. And even if you would somehow manage to do that, your body is not going to be able to use that. So it's not going to be useful, okay? So that's why this doesn't work. This is not going to end up well. Your body has the same amount of resources, and before it needed to use all of those resources to repair one thing, your training, your damage that you caused during the training, but now you have the same amount of resources going into two separate things. What do you think is going to happen? Not muscle gain. So what is going to happen is you're going to stay sick for much longer. The sickness is going to last much longer, and your training is shit, that's one thing, but you're also not even recovering from it properly. Now, the sickness causes your training stimulus to be shit, which means that if you're sick for longer because of your resources going to two separate places and not recovering you properly from the sickness will last longer, and that will keep you in the state when you can't train normally longer. Okay? When you're sick and training, doesn't matter how you train, you're not gaining muscle. And the longer you're in that state, the worse it's going to be, because the longer you're in that, the longer you're not gaining muscle. So being sick for longer is not good, but that's what you're causing when you're training while you are sick. So, besides all of this, it could also be dangerous, obviously. The reason why I'm not talking about that in this video is because I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You can get heart problems of that if you train with a fever, and you're also infecting other people, which is not a very nice thing to do. You don't just, go to people like, hey, what up? You want some COVID? Obviously, nobody wants that. So, yep. And what happens when you don't train? Well, the opposite. What happens when you don't train is you're still not gaining muscle, okay? So I'm not going to tell you that, if you're not training, you're going to gain all this muscle while you're sitting at home in bed. No, that's not happening, okay? You're still not gaining muscle, but you're also not losing muscle. So you're not going to lose your muscle just from skipping training for a week or two. Even if you do it for 2 weeks, the only thing that you might lose is a little bit of strength, because you forget how to do the movements and you become a little bit less efficient at using your muscles, but your muscles will not become less. Okay, so the only thing that could really go down is your performance, because of your work capacity might go down a little bit. You're not able to use your muscles as efficiently, but that is shit that comes back really, really quickly. Now, you can also recover with full force quicker. So your sickness doesn't take a month to recover from. It takes a week or maybe 2, okay? So if you have a sickness that you have for more than 2 weeks, that actually completely makes you unable to train, that is a problem. You need to seriously go to a doctor, and that is a bigger problem than what we are talking about. But a normal casual sickness lasts anywhere from a week to 2 weeks, and 2 weeks being the very high end that normally doesn't happen. For me, I had one of the worst sicknesses probably right now, and that was 2 weeks, and I don't think I have ever been sick for 2 weeks before in my life, except from maybe when I was like a little kid or something. But even then, what happened to me is, after skipping the gym for 2 weeks, you know what happened? I went back to the gym, and I actually PR'd on the first day, but then I was so fucking sore that I couldn't train. But what happened is I went back to the gym, my work capacity got a little bit down, so I wasn't able to do as much work. So what I'm talking about is I was, let's say, able to do the same numbers, for an example, but with every set, I would lose more and more energy. So for an example, the first set, I could do the same work as last time. Second set also. Third set, bit lower. Fourth set, I'm fucking dying. Fifth set, please help me. And I'm not doing more sets because I'm just not able to. It's not doing anything. So that takes a little bit of time to come back to, but I think that I have been training for 2 weeks at this point again since I came back from the sickness, and I'm back to normal. Like I did PRs on many things since then. I'm back to doing my old work pretty much on everything. So even with being absent from the gym for 2 weeks straight, and also I lost quite a bit of weight while I was sick. So if you don't do that, if you don't lose any weight, probably not even this is going to happen, which happened to me. So, you know, I went back, and in 2 weeks of training, I'm back. So with 2 weeks of sickness, it took me like a month overall to get back to the normal level, which is pretty nice. And with 1 week of sickness, you're probably going to be either back immediately doing the previous weights, or it will take like a week at most. But if you don't do that and you train all the time, let's say you have a 2 week sickness, but it will last like 5-6 weeks because you're training and your body can't recover properly. Maybe you just had a little bit of just a very small sickness that would have lasted for only a week, and it will last for like 3. So in reality, you're losing out on muscle growth because you're not absent from the gym, but you're in the gym and you're not going anywhere. Versus otherwise, you would still not be in the gym, otherwise you would not be in the gym for a little time, then you would get back to the gym, you're a little bit off, but then you get back to normal, and then boom, you spend less time not gaining muscle than in the other scenario. So this is why when you're sick, you should be at home. And I hope that this fills you with a lot of calmness when you become sick, because you know that nothing's really going to happen. Yeah, you lose out on a little bit of muscle gain, whatever, but it's still gonna be better than if you would have gone to the gym and kept training. And also, again, that sucks, honestly. It causes you a lot of suffering. Like, training while you're sick fucking sucks. It doesn't feel good. You feel tired, you just want to go home. And also, if you're somebody like me who works at the same place where they train, I cannot just... and also, it's a really small town, so people would see me. You can't just say, oh, I'm sick, not go to work, and then go to train. I can't do that, so I'm not even trying to do it. And, you know, there's no point in even doing that, because you're not getting any better with training while you're sick. So I hope I could help with that. If you like this, watch my last video here, and bye-bye.